Okay, so get this. Today we're going deep on this wild theory about, alien bases on the moon.
Alien
Yeah,
bases.
alien bases, like on the moon. We're talking about the dark side of the moon stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So apparently there's this guy, Ingo Swann,
Ingo Swann?
right? Ingo Swann. And he claimed to have actually seen these
You
bases.
saw them. How?
Well, that's where it gets even crazier, right? He said he used remote viewing.
Remote viewing.
Yep. And get this, it was all tied to some CIA project. Seriously.
The CIA. Like, for real.
For real. So we're going to break down this episode from the Y-Files Operation podcast called, and I love this title, 49, Alien Bases on the Moon, the amazing true story of Ingo Swann.
Okay, the amazing true story of Ingo Swann. That's a pretty bold claim right there.
Right. It definitely caught our attention. So the big question here is, did this guy actually find evidence of aliens chilling on the moon?
Okay, so first of all, when are we talking about here?
Good point. This wasn't some recent internet thing. We're talking the 70s and 80s.
Huh. That's interesting. The Cold War era, peak paranoia.
Total spy movie vibes. Like, picture this. Ingo Swann, working for the CIA, using psychic powers to spy on the Soviets. But instead, he finds aliens on the moon.
So, was he really working for the CIA?
That's what the podcast says.
Yeah.
It mentions this super secret program, the Stargate Project.
Stargate Project? I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, they were investigating psychic stuff like, can you really use your mind to see things far away? Could they use that for spying? It's kind of wild.
I mean, in the middle of the Cold War, anything goes, right? If the U.S. thought the Soviets were messing with psychic spies, they weren't going to be left behind.
Right. Total arms race, but with mind powers.
Makes you wonder what else they were looking into.
Okay, but hold on. Let's back up a sec. What exactly is remote viewing? I'm picturing like staring really hard at a map and hoping for a vision.
Well, not exactly. It's the idea that you can perceive something far away, a place or an event, but only using your mind, no senses involved.
So like mental teleportation.
Kind of, but more like mental sightseeing, I guess. The podcast says Swann gave detailed descriptions of what he saw on the moon, like actual structures, buildings, things happening.
And he was sure it was aliens.
Absolutely convinced. Claimed they were building a whole base on the far side of the moon.
Hold on. Wait, are you telling me the CIA actually believed this guy? They put money into researching psychic spies?
Here's the thing, the Stargate project is real. They declassified documents back in 2006.
Oh, wow.
Swann was definitely involved. But how much they believed his moon stories, that's harder to say.
Yeah, I guess there's a difference between, checking something out and actually taking it seriously.
Right, especially when you're talking about something as unusual as remote viewing.
Okay, so we've got this Cold War anxiety, this secret CIA program, and this guy claiming he can see aliens building a moon base with his mind. This is a lot to unpack.
It is, but where do we even start?
Maybe with the remote viewing itself? I mean, is there any actual science to back that up?
Well, most scientists are, how to put this nicely, very skeptical. There have been studies and all, but nothing really concrete.
But wouldn't the CIA only have gotten involved if they'd seen something promising?
Not necessarily. I mean, imagine the pressure back then. They didn't want to fall behind the Soviets, even if it meant exploring some pretty fringe ideas.
Yeah, makes sense. So back to Swann and his moon bases. Is there any way to, check if he was right?
We've sent people and robots to the moon, right? We have pretty good maps, at least of the side facing us. No giant alien structures, at least not officially.
But what about the far side? That's always turned away from us, right? Maybe that's their hiding spot.
True, it's less explored, but you'd think we'd have picked up something on our instruments. You know what they say? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And so far, that evidence just isn't there.
So are we saying Swann was making it all up?
It's tough to say for sure. Maybe he truly believed what he saw, even if it was just his imagination, or, and this is interesting, maybe he was spreading misinformation on purpose, like some Cold War scheme.
Ooh, a disinformation campaign.
Okay.
Now that's a twist. Spy stuff gets me every time.
Makes you wonder what else is hidden in those government files.
Right. Okay. So we can't say for sure about the moon base, but let's, play devil's advocate. If there were aliens on the moon, why? What would they be doing there?
It's a great question, and it's a question we're going to tackle next. Buckle up, because we're about to dive into the why of all this. Argument's sake, that Swann was onto something. That there really is some kind of alien base on the moon.
Okay, I'm game, but why the moon? It's not exactly, a 5-star resort.
Right. No atmosphere, no water, freezing cold. So why would they choose that as their secret headquarters?
Yeah, good point.
Well, think about it. The far side of the moon, it's always facing away from us. Perfect for keeping things hidden, right?
Total privacy, like a cosmic fortress.
Exactly. Plus, the view from there, it's amazing. You can see the whole Earth, the entire solar system, like a front row seat to, well, everything.
So they could be, like, watching us,
Yeah.
studying us. That's kind of creepy, but also kind of cool.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? But let's not forget what Swann said about their intentions. Maybe they're not so friendly.
Right, the whole hostile aliens thing. Okay, that's a bit unsettling. But wouldn't they have, taken over by now if they were really hostile?
You'd think so, right? I mean, if they have the tech to get here, surely conquering Earth wouldn't be that hard.
Right.
Unless they have other goals. Or maybe there are, like, cosmic rules we don't understand holding them back. Who knows?
Okay, fair enough. So maybe it's not world domination.
Yeah.
What else could they be doing on the moon? Mining for stuff? Building a giant death ray?
Now you're thinking. The moon does have resources, things we might need as we explore space. Like helium-3, great for those futuristic fusion reactors we keep hearing about.
And the death ray.
Hey, I'm not ruling anything out at this point.
Okay, so we've got this possibility, right? Aliens on the moon doing something. But how does this affect us down here? On Earth, I mean.
That's the big question, isn't it? Even if they're there, what does it mean for humanity? Does it change how we see our place in the universe? Is it a threat? Or is it an opportunity?
It's got to be mind-blowing, right? It's just the fact that we might not be alone. That changes everything.
It really puts things in perspective. We're so focused on our own world, our own problems, we forget there's a whole universe out there.
It's almost too much to process. Part of me is, like, scared of what's out there, but another part of me just wants to know, are we alone or not?
That's a natural reaction. It's the unknown, the mystery that both scares and fascinates us.
It's like, on the one hand, alien abduction, no thanks. But on the other hand, show me the spaceship.
It's that mix of fear and excitement that makes this whole topic so interesting, don't you think?
Totally. But hold on, didn't we send, astronauts to the moon? Did they see any alien bases?
Well, the Apollo missions, they only explored a small part of the moon, mostly the side facing us.
Okay, but even so, wouldn't they have noticed something?
Let's be real, if they did see something, it was probably top secret, Governments love their secrets, especially when it comes to aliens.
So there could be a file somewhere labeled Top Secret Alien Moon Base. I'm not sure if that's hilarious or terrifying.
Probably a bit of both. But you know what they say? The truth is out there. Somewhere.
Okay, so maybe we haven't found it yet. Let's shift gears a bit. We talked about Swann, we talked about hypothetical aliens, but what about, the science behind all this?
Good point. How has the scientific community reacted to all of this? Specifically to this idea of remote viewing.
Yeah, because remote viewing is real. That's huge, right? It changes everything about how we see the world, how we see ourselves.
It would be a revolution in our understanding of human consciousness, wouldn't it?
Totally. So are scientists, on board with this?
Not exactly. Most are, well, pretty skeptical. They've done studies, experiments, the whole scientific method. And so far, nothing conclusive.
So no proof of mind-reading super spies?
Not yet, anyway. Many scientists think those apparent successes, they're just coincidences, or maybe even subconscious biases from the researchers themselves.
So the CIA might have been chasing a phantom, basically.
Possibly. But even if remote viewing isn't real, the whole Stargate project, it still raises some interesting questions about the relationship between science and government and how we deal with the paranormal, the things we can't explain.
It's like a real-life X-Files, but without the cool music.
Right. But even when an investigation doesn't give us clear answers, we still learn things about critical thinking, about how our senses can be tricked, about how important it is not to jump to conclusions.
Well said. But before we wrap this up, there's one thing I keep coming back to. We've been talking about, why aliens might want to be on the moon. But what about the people who believe in all this? What drives them?
That's a really good question, and I think it gets to the heart of why these stories, like Swann's, continue to resonate with people. There's a sense of hope there, maybe, a sense of wonder, a little bit of fear, too.
It's like, we want to believe there's more out there, something bigger than ourselves. And maybe someone out there has the answers we don't.
It's a basic human need, I think, to feel connected to something bigger.
Yeah.
And the idea of aliens, especially intelligent ones, really taps into that.
It's like our modern mythology, right? Instead of gods and goddesses, we have aliens. But it's the same desire for meaning, for connection.
I like that. It's the stories we tell, whether they're based on science or just speculation, that reveal our hopes, our fears, our search for understanding, for our place in the universe.
So even if there were no aliens on the moon, no psychic spies, just thinking about these possibilities, that tells us something about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
about what it means to be human in this huge, mysterious universe.
Exactly. And sometimes the journey, the exploration itself, is just as important as the destination, even if we never reach it.
It's interesting, right? Even though most scientists aren't buying this whole remote viewing thing, it's still like everywhere. Movies, TV, even books, they all love the idea of psychic powers.
Yeah, it's a classic trope. And it's not hard to see why, right? This idea that we might have hidden abilities, like we could be so much more than we think we are. That's pretty appealing. It taps into that desire for something beyond the ordinary, something, I don't know, almost magical.
Yeah, like what if there's a part of us that's connected to, like, the universe or something?
Yeah.
Some big mysterious force we don't understand.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe there is. Even if this remote viewing thing turns out to be a bust, there's still so much about the brain, about consciousness that we just don't know. Maybe those untapped abilities, they are in there somewhere, just waiting to be discovered.
Okay, now I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting and creepy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get back to Ingo Swann for a second. We've looked at his claims, the evidence or lack of it. So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway here?
I think, honestly, we're left with a bit of a mystery, a puzzle with some pieces missing. We may never really know what Swan saw or thought he saw up there on the moon. But his story, even if it's just a story, it forces us to ask questions, to consider things that are outside our normal way of thinking.
It's like the truth is out there, but maybe we haven't found it yet. Or maybe it's weirder than we could ever imagine.
Exactly. Think about how many times in science something that sounded crazy, impossible even, ended up being true. And things we thought were facts, well, they turned out to be totally wrong.
So are you saying we should all be like setting up telescopes in our backyards looking for alien moon bases?
Well, maybe not that, but I do think it's important to stay curious, to keep asking questions about the world, about the universe. Who knows what amazing things are still out there waiting to be found?
I like that. Keep looking, keep wondering. Not bad advice for anything, really. So here we are, wrapping up our deep dive into the world of Ingo Swann, alien moon bases, and the mysteries of the human mind.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. Full of intrigue and speculation and a healthy dose of skepticism, too. And that's what makes it so interesting. It's not about finding all the answers. It's about engaging with the mystery, the unknown, and realizing that there's still so much out there that we just don't understand.
Well said. But before we go, we want to leave you with this one last thought. What if there's more to the universe than we can even imagine? What if there are secrets waiting to be uncovered, wonders just waiting to be revealed? Keep looking up, keep searching, and who knows what you might find.
Thank you for joining CMF Conspiracies podcast. What do you think about the topic we covered today? Comment below with your thoughts on this subject. If you have a conspiracy you wish for us to deep dive into, please send your topic to our email address or leave it in the comments. Thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe for more content like this.